Across decades, the House of Gund has wielded unprecedented dominance, blending familial solidarity and relentless profit-seeking in the field of genomics. From the boardrooms of corporate America, they rose to influence international medicine, biotech, and the very code of human life, becoming the most formidable medical dynasty of their age. The Gund medical dynasty has a dark origin, literally, in a time of uncertainty and biological limitations. Like many of his time, Gordon Gund faced a barrier he could not cross. Not a ghetto wall, but a biological one. It's called retinitis pigmentosa. By the 1970s, he was slowly losing his sight, a fate that would have sidelined a lesser man. But Gordon refused to accept the limitations of his environment. He followed a path of radical exploration, traveling to Russia at the height of the Cold War, desperately seeking a cure in an environment as bleak as his prognosis. He found only dead ends, but in those failures, he uncovered a brilliant strategy known today as venture philanthropy. He realized that to find a cure for a rare disease, you don't just need doctors. You need a system to control the information. Gordon Gund quickly established himself as a shrewd strategist. He founded the Foundation Fighting Blindness in 1971, much like a modern-day investment fund. He worked as a patron of science, much like the court agents who once managed the wealth of princes. Whenever researchers needed funding for genetic studies, they turned to the foundation. What Gund did was this. He would use tax-exempt donations to fund early, high-risk research, effectively acting as the primary buyer of potential breakthroughs. This practice allowed him to accumulate something that was more valuable than gold, a database of human DNA and the intellectual property that came with it. In doing so, he profited twice, once from the philanthropic goodwill, and later from the commercialization of that very data. By the close of the 1900s, he was one of the most influential figures in American medicine. But still, for Gordon Gund, it wasn't enough. He envisioned a legacy beyond a cure, a family dynasty that stands the test of time, outlasting individual diseases. To do that, he knew he needed to think bigger than just vision loss. He dispatched his resources to the great frontiers of science. We're talking DNA sequencing, gene therapy, and molecular diagnostics. In the early 2000s, the genomic revolution stood as a global superpower, transforming the economy and making biotechnology a manufacturing powerhouse. The financial sector centered in Boston and San Francisco was robust. Gordon realized that to sustain the long-term prosperity of the family, he needed to expand into the for-profit realm. He helped launch companies that functioned as the banks of DNA. Eventually, his name became synonymous with Spark Therapeutics and Foundation Medicine. For the doctors and scientists who worked under him, the pressure was immense. They felt compelled to uphold a legacy of scientific victory. With the capital his foundation helped unlock, Gordon planned to maximize the return on his research by any means necessary. In the 2010s, the biotech industry saw significant growth, and Gordon saw an opportunity to capitalize on this growth while maximizing profits. He manages to create three sources of profits from the DNA industry: the raw data, the diagnostic tools, and the ultimate cure. Information is everything, and speed is king. The Gunds understood this better than anyone in the medical field. They were one of the earliest successful speculators of the genetic code, staying steps ahead of competitors by leveraging their proprietary patient registries. As a result, genetic speculation becomes their most profitable business. The profit for the Gund house keeps rolling in. But for the family, it is about more than money. It is about keeping score in the ultimate game of achievement. To ensure the House of Gund remains prosperous, Gordon urges his sons to put their family unity first and above all. Family unity first and above all. This is one of the foundations for the long-standing success of the Gund dynasty. Their strong bond as a family and their unique way of doing business, moving fluidly between charity and commerce, are reasons they're still successful today. By 2014, Spark Therapeutics plans to bring the fight to the FDA. They realize the need for a significant amount of capital for clinical trials. Gordon sees this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If he can meet this challenging demand, it can elevate his medical bank to unprecedented heights. He went to the market and bought the best minds. He knew the world must have these cures. He undertook all that and sent his discoveries to the front lines of healthcare. And that was the best business he ever did. As the biotech sector turns into a hotbed of competition, its companies increasingly need a new edge. To start a revolution, you will need money. If you lose the race to a patent, you lose everything. For the House of Gund, rare diseases become a profitable business, and their network of foundations and companies provides a unique competitive advantage. Back then, the modern genomic system was just starting, so they could charge high fees, sometimes as much as $850,000 for a single treatment of Luxturna. But revenues from one drug are just a small part of their income source. The real power is in the data. Using private patient registries and even leveraging AI-driven analytics, the Gunds stay steps ahead of the competitors. By the mid-2000s, James and Zachary Gund, the next generation, became the commanders-in-chief of the family interests. For them, the pressure of being a Gund was immense. While government grants and foundation funding remained profitable, competition was saturating the field. To bring their family new glory, they looked for a new edge, the railroads of DNA. Just as the great financiers of the 19th century funded the tracks of Europe, the Gunds financed the pipelines of gene therapy. They were clever with their money. They often use other people's money, donations and public research grants, to reduce their own risks. By now, the Gunds are more than philanthropists, but the foundation remains at the heart of the family business. While profits for the House of Gund soar, average people struggle to afford the treatments they funded. The income disparity between the medical elite and the patient remains as pronounced as ever. The industrialists of this period are people who are out for themselves to make large fortunes as quickly as possible, even if it means pressing the envelope of medical ethics. In 2019, the ultimate showdown arrived. A new banking empire of pharma, Roche, emerges, poised to challenge their dominance. Roche saw the rise of the House of Gund and understood that Spark Therapeutics was the key to the future. They offered to acquire Spark for $4.3 billion. Gordon and his sons understood that even if they sold the company, their influence would remain, so they sold. The deal netted them a fortune from this windfall, propelling them into the upper ranks of global wealth. And now, the House of Gund has become a formidable force in finance, just as the House of Morgan once was. While they strive to establish their permanent dynasty, the younger generation looks beyond medicine, investing heavily in diverse assets. But to truly recapture their past success, they need a more expansive marketplace. As old medical models fade, a new empire of synthetic biology emerges. The story of the Gunds isn't just the story of doctors who helped build a cure. It is the story of entrepreneurs who created entire industries that propelled them to lead the free world of medicine. For years, others underestimated the power of venture philanthropy, deeming it a niche for the kind-hearted. But seeing the rise of the House of Gund, Wall Street has emerged as the new global hub for medical wealth. And nothing presents better opportunities than when there is blood on the street, or a glitch in the DNA. Today, the Gund family diversifies its interests across multiple sectors, extending beyond traditional biotech into sports, investment banking, and private equity. Their enterprises encompass wealth and asset management, ensuring that the Gund name remains at the bedrock of the global economy. While medicine is still central, the family's influence now permeates a wider range of financial services. Throughout history, the Gund family was often not hesitant about making more money. But when it comes to maintaining family legacy, they were able to let go of companies while keeping the power. This kind of long-term view is both respected and scary. It is the blueprint for any doctor who wants to move from the clinic to the castle. The Gunds didn't just find a cure for blindness. They found a way to see a future where they own the blueprint of life itself. For the modern physician, the House of Gund is not just a story of success. It is a clinical blueprint for the transition from practitioner to patriarch. The Gunds recognize that while a doctor's hands can heal one patient at a time, a doctor's equity can heal thousands while generating a return that outpaces any surgical fee. To understand how to build this kind of legacy, we must look at the specific asset classes that have fortified the Gund family's $3.4 billion net worth. They did not park their wealth in traditional savings accounts. They diversified into high-yield, specialized sectors that every ambitious doctor should study. While the Gunds are famous for biotech, their foundation is built on heavy interests in public giants that offer stability and massive dividends. Gordon Gund and his family maintain significant stakes in the Kellogg Company, now Kellanova, with reports indicating a 6.3% ownership. This is a lesson in consumer defensive stocks. No matter the economy, people need to eat, providing a steady, scorekeeping mechanism for the family's wealth. Beyond food, they hold over 1.8 million shares in Corning Inc., a leader in material science and glass, worth over $159 million. They also hold a dominant position in Align Technology, the makers of Invisalign, with holdings valued at over $217 million. For a physician, these assets represent investing in what you know, medical devices and technologies that are already reshaping your own clinics. But true dynasty wealth requires more than just public stocks. It requires the ownership of unique, appreciating assets like professional sports teams. The Gunds famously purchased a majority interest in the Cleveland Cavaliers for $20 million in 1983. They didn't just buy a team. They bought the Richfield Coliseum and later built Gund Arena, serving as a cornerstone for downtown redevelopment. When they sold their controlling interest in 2005 to Dan Gilbert, the valuation had skyrocketed, illustrating how a doctor can leverage real estate and community development to multiply their initial investment. They also pioneered the San Jose Sharks and the Cleveland Rockers, proving that a diversified portfolio must include entertainment and high barrier to entry franchises. For the average doctor watching this, you might not be ready to buy an NBA team, but you can follow the GUND strategy of asset specialization. Take HCA Healthcare, the largest for-profit operator of health facilities in the world. Investing in the landlords of medicine allows you to profit from the very infrastructure you work in every day. Or consider Arthrex, a global leader in orthopedic surgical tools. Like the GUND's bet on Spark Therapeutics, these companies own the proprietary tools that make modern surgery possible. The goal for the physician investor is to reach a point where you can live off 5% of your total assets per year, ensuring that your wealth is as permanent as a genomic sequence. The House of Gund teaches us that the greatest risk isn't in the research. It's in remaining just a court agent for the science instead of becoming the owner. They used venture philanthropy to bridge the valley of death in drug development, a strategy where they funded the high-risk early stages with tax-exempt money to reap the multi-billion-dollar rewards later. When Roche acquired Spark Therapeutics for $4.3 billion, it wasn't just a win for the blind. It was a win for the Gund family office, which had successfully converted human ingenuity into a liquid fortune. This is the final lesson. Thrift, patience, and discipline are your tools, but ownership is your destination. Don't just be a doctor who treats the dynasty. Be the doctor who builds one. Because in the end, if you don't own your data, your tools, and your time, someone like the Gunds will. They didn't just find a cure for blindness. They found a way to see a future where they own the blueprint of life itself. For the modern physician, the question is no longer, how do I save a life? But how do I own the breakthrough that saves millions? The House of Gund has shown us that the most valuable currency in the 21st century isn't gold or Bitcoin. It's your DNA. To build a dynasty, you must stop thinking about your hourly rate and start thinking about your exit valuation. Because the medical industry is moving toward a winner-take-all genomic era, and those who own the DNA banks will be the Rothschilds of the new age. The Gunds leverage tragedy to build a kingdom. For you, the opportunity lies in the data you generate and the technologies you employ every single day. The era of the medical dynasty has only just begun. The only question remains, will you be a subject or will you be the architect? Let's look deeper into the Gund formula. Gordon Gund was not a physician by trade, but his approach was clinical. He understood that the medical-industrial complex relies on three distinct layers of profit: service, product, and IP. Most doctors get trapped in the first layer, service. This is the realm of the hourly rate, the surgical fee, and the consultation. Layer 2 is the product, the surgical tool, the diagnostic kit, the pharmaceutical pill. This is where wealth begins to scale. But layer 3 is the holy grail, intellectual property. This is the code. By funding the foundation fighting blindness, Gordon Gund didn't just help researchers. He created a repository for the most valuable IP in the world, the genetic sequence required to restore sight. When Spark Therapeutics was spun out of the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, it wasn't a startup in the traditional sense. It was the harvest of 40 years of philanthropic planting. For a doctor, this means looking at your practice and asking, where is the harvest? Are you developing a proprietary protocol? Are you building a database of outcomes that no one else has? If you are building the foundation of your own Spark Therapeutics. Consider the front-running technique used by the early banking dynasties. They would buy the coins before the prince even knew he wanted them. The Guns did this with gene therapy. They funded the science when it was considered science fiction. By the time the world realized gene therapy was the future, the Guns already owned the patents. This is how you avoid the saturation of the playing field. You look for the industries that are in their 18th century Frankfurt phase, underestimated and restricted. Then, you apply the syndicate model. You pool resources, like the House of Morgan, to finance projects that are too big for one man, but perfect for a dynasty. The Gund family office doesn't just manage money, it manages power. They understand that medical power is the ultimate leverage. If you own the cure, you set the terms for the king. This is why their acquisition by Roche was so strategic. They didn't just sell a company, they integrated their dynasty into the very fabric of global pharmaceutical dominance. For you, the journey from clinic to castle begins with a single step: diversifying your identity. Stop identifying as a service provider and start identifying as an asset manager who happens to practice medicine. Invest in HCA Healthcare to understand the macroeconomics of hospital systems. Invest in Arthrex to understand the microeconomics of surgical innovation. And ultimately, invest in your own family's solidarity. Because as the Guns proved, the most powerful institution isn't a bank or a hospital, it's a house. The story of the Guns is a warning and an invitation. The warning is that the genomic era will be owned by those with the longest view and the deepest pockets. The invitation is for you to join them. Don't just save lives. Own the blueprint of life itself, because if you don't, someone else will. If you enjoyed this video, like it, share it, and subscribe for more videos like this. See you in the next video.